Hello and welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. I'm Dave G, and joining me today is my co-host.
Hello everybody, I'm Kyle.
And today we're going to be taking a look at the movie that the whole world seems to be talking about at the moment. It's the movie that was formerly known as Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Nowadays it's just known as Harley Quinn Birds of Prey. As I said, this is a movie that the entire world is talking about at the moment. It basically tells the story of Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, who suddenly finds herself single and out and alone away from Joker. Now, at the same time that happens, half of Gotham's bad guys decide that it's time for payback for the stuff that she's done to them while she's been with Joker, led by Roman Sionis, played by Ewan McGregor. Now, suddenly Harley Quinn needs protection. Now, the first person that offers her protection is Dinah Lance, played by Jurnee Smollett-Bell, who decides that she feels sorry for the poor girl and wants to protect her. As the movie goes on, other people come into the movie as well, including Helena, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. There's also a detective in there as well, played by Rosie Perez, that's also hunting down Harley Quinn. And you also have the storyline as well of Harley Quinn trying to protect Cassandra Cain, played by Ella J. Basco, but you never really know whether or not it's going to get to the point where Harley's going to throw her under the bus just to get the reward money that's out for her either. Mate, I gotta ask, what did you think of this movie? Because this is one of those movies where I think it's just been battered from pillar to post and been stuffed around so much. Probably the most amount I've seen with the movie since Suicide Squad, which is weird because they are linked. So, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I didn't really think too highly of it, man. I didn't care much for Suicide Squad when it came out. I know that's one that you weren't fond of the original theatrical release, and you liked the director's cut of it. I haven't seen the director's cut myself, but I did think that Harley Quinn and Joker's relationship from Suicide Squad, the theatrical version, was somewhat interesting, and this could have been expanded upon in another film, especially considering that's how that movie left off. And while we were talking about the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, I know we were talking about how, okay, would they continue to make more movies with Jared Leto's Joker, like that kind of canon, you know? Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't quite understand just exactly how bad the rift between Jared Leto, his Joker, and with the audience didn't like him, his co-stars didn't like him, and as I understand it now, the studio didn't like him. So he's out entirely. And so now we have, they want to make a movie that's about Harley Quinn, because she was really the one thing from Suicide Squad that people really seemed to like. I think there were a lot of decisions made while creating this film that didn't really appeal to anyone. I can't really see how the movie would appeal to anyone. Like, they want to make this real, like, it's very obvious that they want to make this kind of real feminist girl power film at the expense of man. So there kind of goes your male audience in the same way that they did for Terminator Dark Fate or Charlie's Angels. They wanted to have it be R-rated because that worked, R-rated in America, this is, because that worked for Deadpool. And this movie is released in the exact same time window that the original Deadpool movie came out, but this kind of it lacks that male protagonist and even the love story that Deadpool had, as well as the cheeky comedy. So it's not going to appeal to those people. And of course, they want the young teen audience and the kids who made Endgame and Aquaman and Wonder Woman so popular, but because this is R-rated, they can't go to see it either. And being a comic book movie, they've really butchered the source material so much with this movie that even comic book fans aren't really going to be that interested in it. So I think it's a movie that's just across the board. There's been so many bad decisions made with it that it's one that's very hard to enjoy. It's a movie that's very hard to actually see where they're coming from with it. I know that they wanted to make this movie about Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, but I don't know. I think that she better suits as a supporting character. But I mean, we'll get into that more as we go on. But well, what did you think of it, dude? Because yeah, like I said, I know that you liked the director's cut of Suicide Squad. So yeah, what did you think of this? Because it's pretty much the closest that we're going to get to a follow up to that, I think.
Yeah, I know they are talking now about a Will Smith spin-off from Suicide Squad as well, which I think they're kind of looking for that R rating for that one as well. But I think what I found most frustrating with this movie was that I found that it had a turning point in this movie where I felt like it went downhill. Because I actually enjoyed this movie early on. When there was scenes like Roman torturing the family and stuff like that, I thought, okay, they're going to take this into a bit of a darker edge, and I kind of liked that. At the same time, you had like Harley Quinn using the F word and stuff like that, and I was kind of like, I like where this is going. Like, I like what they're doing with this. Even some of the earlier fights in this, especially the one with Dinah Lance, I actually thought, okay, I like what they're doing with this, but it seemed like there was a turning point in this movie where the person I saw it with, I said to them, like, okay, is this taking more of a John Wick kind of feel to it than what I thought it was going to have with some of the early fight scenes? But then at the end, it was probably one of the worst fight scenes I've seen in cinema for a long time, when it became too comic book. And I say that in a bad sense, not in the sense where, because you can have really dark comic books, but it became like almost, I was almost expecting the Biff and the Pow from the 1960s Batman series to pop up on the screen, because it was that kind of like comic book and lame with the fight scenes. It really felt like this was a movie in two parts, and therefore it didn't surprise me when I actually looked into this film a little bit more and saw that some of the fight scenes were directed by one of the guys from John Wick, and that the rest of the movie wasn't. And I think that's where the film kind of like fell apart, was that this almost felt like it needed to be a movie where, this is going to sound really harsh, but the director needed to be replaced. And it was obvious that the studio wasn't happy with some of the stuff that they were seeing, or they would never have brought in another director to direct the fight sequences. So I don't know then why the studio wouldn't have just gone, you know what, we're going to get him to direct all of the fight sequences, or direct the entire movie. It just, yeah, it kind of like fell away. Even like the character of Harley Quinn, like early on, she had some edge, she had some balls, but then like towards the end, it felt like it did with Suicide Squad, where they suddenly had too many characters in there that they had to try and keep touch of. And I think for myself, that's where one of the biggest mistakes went for this movie. And I said it from when I first heard this movie was coming out. Mixing Birds of Prey with Harley Quinn, this needed to either be a Harley Quinn movie or it needed to be a Birds of Prey movie. It could have been a Birds of Prey movie with Harley Quinn as the baddie, but it just didn't feel right having them mixed together. It just, especially when the title of the film was Birds of Prey, and then like the bit was kind of like added at the end, and Harley Quinn. It didn't feel right from the very start. I mean, even the animated movies that come out, like you had Batman and Harley Quinn come out recently as an animation, and that worked because it was a Batman story, it was a Nightwing story, and Harley Quinn was the baddie who tries to get between Batman and Nightwing. But this one just felt really disjointed. It's like, what, you want to make a Harley Quinn movie, but you're going to throw Birds of Prey in there and then kind of make them the subsidiary to the main story, but the movie is named after them. It just didn't feel right. Like, it just felt really, really forced and really awkward towards the end. So, and even like, and again, like the thing that really frustrated me was I did kind of like the final showdown between Roman and Harley, but again, it showed why it was a Harley Quinn movie, because the Birds of Prey were not even present when that final confrontation comes between Roman and Harley. So it felt like a really awkwardly constructed movie. It almost felt like two films mashed together. And I think the Birds of Prey storyline is a storyline that DC should explore, but I think they went about it the wrong way by mashing it in with a Harley Quinn movie.
Yeah, definitely. They should, because obviously, like, this is produced by Margot Robbie. It's really made as it's in a way kind of I wouldn't say it's a vanity project for her, but maybe it's a kind of her big superhero movie so that she can go on to do more movies like Bombshell, and more kind of smaller, more chancier movies. I thought that maybe making this entire movie all about Harley Quinn, they, as you said, they should have just stuck with that. And I think that the whole movie should have felt like a Harley Quinn movie from the beginning. The style of really the first half of the movie, where it's kind of jumping around, doing like the Guy Ritchie thing, where they start and introduce a character and say, "Oh wait, by the way, I haven't explained this guy. We'll go back a couple of days," and then they explain who that person is. They do that quite a lot. It's jumping around, and it's not that hard to understand. I thought that that would really muddy up the movie and make it really hard to figure out what's going on. It didn't. But that's only because what's happening in the movie is so goddamn simple, and it's such a basic story that it's not really that hard to figure out what's happening. But at the same time, I think I picked up a few bloopers that happened because I think the filmmakers themselves weren't able to really grasp the timelines, and like this sequence is supposed to have happened after this other thing happened, but they still have, like, Harley still has her Joker necklace and stuff like that. I think the movie could have been really unique had they really stuck with the idea that this is a story being told by a crazy person.
Yeah.
Like American Psycho, the ending of American Psycho, where things just go completely nuts. ATM telling Patrick Bateman to feed it a stray cat. Had the movie just really gone into that all the way through it, even if it had the Biffs and Pows and things like that, I think the movie that really would have made it quite interesting. For example, there's a scene. Something that I liked was there's a scene where Roman Black Mask. They tell the audience that this character's Black Mask, like that Ewan McGregor's character is called AKA Black Mask, and that's like, why is he called this? We don't see. He doesn't put on the Black Mask until like 5 minutes till the end of the movie, and it seems like just a random kind of thing that he does. But there's a part in the film where he slaps Harley Quinn, and you see from her perspective that she starts having like this fantasy like dance number with him and his henchmen, like almost like she's in love with him, and she begins to fall in love with him in the same way that she was with Mr. J, with the Joker, who treated her like dirt.
Yeah.
And that was kind of interesting. That's something that they could have really gone with, considering that this whole movie is supposed to be about the emancipation of Harley Quinn, and Harley Quinn, it's in the damn title, it like really pulling herself away from the Joker and from needing the Joker and to be her own character. That could have been something that the movie really went with had they maybe actually had the Joker as the main villain of the film.
Yeah. And
maybe run with that. Like, that could have been something really, really interesting, but instead it just feels like the idea of having Black Mask be the villain of this film instead of Joker, and just having the Joker kind of like out of the picture as much as he is, without any real good explanation given as to why that happens. That all just feels like it's because there's so much drama behind the scenes. It doesn't feel like something that actually works in the film itself. And what you're saying about like the fight scenes themselves, even the actual like quote unquote good fight scenes, I couldn't really get behind them. Like, I know it's a superhero movie, and it's one thing when you have like even like a character like